Interested in attending an Ivy League school? What about mental health? Serving up, we have Gian Ghione, a UPenn student athlete majoring in psych. Learn about his story and his adversity at the breakfast buffet. I hope you guys will enjoy.
Do it! Great jazz call. Major decision, 14-4.
And here we are serving up today at the breakfast buffet. We have Gian Ghione, a UPenn student athlete who is now studying psych, right?
Yep.
Good old psychology major. I know a lot of people go for that. So what's up, man? How you been?
I'm all right, man. Can't complain. Stuck in the house, not really doing too much right now, but everything's all good.
When did you get word that you guys had to do online classes?
So, EIWAs was the first weekend of March. So that happened, and the week after that we had spring break. We were back at school on spring break because we were training for nationals, and then that Thursday they canceled nationals, so everyone went home over the course of the next couple days.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it would be probably a couple days after that we got word. I think they extended spring break first for a week, and then they were they canceled everything.
Yeah, so you go to UPenn, and was there online classes before? Was there online classes in Ivy League? Is that a thing?
I mean, as far as I know, no.
Yeah.
There are a lot of classes that people take predominantly online, classes that maybe, I don't know, there's huge lectures and most of the subject material is online, but you have to meet twice a week or whatever. But I don't think there are any Ivy League classes online as far as I know.
Yeah, is there some classes that are easier now that are online or harder?
I mean, so basically because of just the situation, all the professors that I have and all my friends that I've talked to, their professors are all taking it kind of easy. The university actually moved to give everyone the option for all of their classes to be pass-fail. So basically what that means is that there's no dean's list for this semester because most people are taking half their classes pass-fail or whatever the case is. So for the most part, I guess classes are a little bit easier now that they're online, but it's definitely harder to pay attention and do work and go online study.
Get in the zone, stay focused. Yeah, the old pass fail. At NYU we had an option of I think it was 2 or 3 classes you could take pass fail, and I was very smart with it. Of course, there's an easy way, a hard way to get through college, and a lot of those heavy reading classes, those were the pass fails. But that's interesting how the pass fail, and I know a lot of guys. NYU's doing the same thing with their classes pass fail. I've been talking to some of the guys, especially the business people, the Stern School of Business. They have classes pass fail. So Matt Noble's very excited about that. He's putting his fist in the air in victory. But regardless of this whole quarantine situation, what was the challenges that took you from becoming a high school student to an Ivy League student?
So I mean, I went to a public high school growing up. I don't think our high school had a great matriculation rate into the Ivy League, so there weren't a lot of people going to the Ivy League school, to any Ivy League school. I think we only have a handful in right now. So, I committed to Princeton actually my sophomore year, and I ended up not getting in, so I ended up committing to Penn my senior year. And I kind of went there very underprepared, just because I didn't really take school seriously in high school. I was kind of just I really did not care about school at all. And then I went to college and I was trying to do the same stuff that I did in high school. I wasn't trying to do a whole lot of work, and I was trying to just get through as much as I can, just pass everything and not get good grades. And then I kind of realized that this is what my livelihood's going to be. My livelihood's going to be based on how I do here. So over the course of the last couple of years, as I matured, I kind of got my stuff together, and it was definitely tough. just from an academic standpoint, going from Brick Memorial High School to the University of Pennsylvania, like a world-class university. But you figure it out as you grow up.
Yeah, for sure. Coming from that, like you said, a public school into a school like UPenn, I was similar situation. South Plainfield public school to NYU. My coaches honestly didn't think that I was gonna make it academically, but I proved them wrong. I graduated with a three. I've graduated with a 3.7. So, hey, if I can make it there, man, there's that's what I tell everyone. Yeah, 3.7. They were really impressed with that.
It's funny that
When
you
you got
say
into
that,
Penn,
because when I was a senior in high school, I had I think it was a business teacher, and she told me that like I didn't deserve to go to Penn, or that I wouldn't do anything there or something like that. And I remember being so upset in the moment, like, like, what is she talking about? Like, I worked hard, whatever. And then like the older I get, the more I'm like, wow, I probably did not deserve to get into this
I
school.
mean, I mean, yeah, I mean, we kind of did. I mean, we wrestled. Like wrestling opened that door for us. Other people that don't have wrestling, it's harder. But there's other ways like theater and arts and community service. We had wrestling, and I think it's pretty impressive to maintain a high academic level and then have wrestling there with you at high school. And similar thing, like a lot of students at my high school were mad that I got into NYU because they were, like valedictorians and stuff, and they couldn't get into NYU. And it's me. I don't even know what I was in the class, but the wrestling opened the door for me. Wasn't like I was a bad student, I admit I'm not the smartest. I wasn't the smartest student, but I worked hard there. I went to every class. I studied and did what I needed to do, especially at NYU. I used my resources, as they say. But going into Penn, we'll touch on the wrestling aspect later, but going into Penn, did you know what you wanted to study?
So I mean, I kind of when I went to Penn, I really wanted to like transfer into Wharton, which is the business school at Penn.
Yeah,
Um,
Warren's number one. Stern, NYU Stern's number two, I think. I believe. Don't go. I didn't go to the business school, so don't quote me on that. But,
I wanted to get into Wharton because like everyone that graduates there, you're basically set for life. And I wanted to work on Wall Street and do all like the economics and bigwig stuff and all that kind of thing. But I took one economics class and I was like, I can't do this. Like this is a foreign language to me. I really like. I can't focus in this class. I don't understand what I'm looking at. I don't understand economics. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So my second semester, I decided to switch to a major called Health and Societies, where it was kind of like a pharmaceutical degree. Like I would be taking like a pharmaceutical sales rep route, or just, selling, body parts and stuff like that to doctors and all that kind of stuff. So for the first like 2 months or 2 semesters, I did that. My second semester of freshman year, my first semester of sophomore year. And then when I went home my sophomore spring, I ended up switching to psychology, and that's where I've been ever since.
awesome. Yeah. So psych degree. But that's important. I mean, to take classes you're interested in your freshman year to see if that's the route you want to go in. I didn't go in undecided at NYU. I went in with sports media, basically their program first. But what they have you do there is they have you take all your liberal study classes and then one or two classes in that sports field to see if you like it. So you didn't go in undecided, or you did?
So I mean, I went in. I think I was an econ major when I got in there.
Uh-huh.
But like I said,
Through CAS, was that? Do you
yeah,
have a
through the
CAS program?
College of
Yeah.
Arts and Sciences.
Yeah,
But
yeah. NYU had the same thing, and a lot of people that didn't go to Stern went in through economics with CAS, and they some of them have the same jobs as if you did go to Stern. Shout out Nathan Pike, he was national champ and CAS graduate. Now he's working in finance. I mean, he would call it finance, but that's the fancy way of saying it. But it's all about who you know and your work ethic. So. Yeah, so you went through economics and then you eventually changed your major twice,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that's you changing it
So
twice.
yeah.
What made you want to change it the second time?
So, basically, I mean, health and societies classes I was more interested in than I was in economics, but it wasn't anything that I was like passionate about. Um, so my sophomore year, uh, spring, going into the spring semester, I started dealing with like pretty bad like anxiety, panic attacks. I got diagnosed with a general anxiety disorder. Actually, it was a panic disorder and like a major depressive disorder at that time. Um, so I had a really bad concussion from wrestling,
Yeah,
and
keep in mind you're wrestling this whole time, making different changes in your major and what you're studying. So
yep.
that's also important. So
So
continue.
right before my finals, my first semester sophomore year, I got this concussion, and because of the way Penn is, I pushed my finals back to the beginning of the next semester. So next semester comes around, and when this is all happening, I'm dealing with really, really bad anxiety. I think I lost like 20 pounds in like the course of a week. Um, I wasn't leaving the house. I think I stayed home for like a week more than I was supposed to, just because I told my coaches, I was like, I can't even get out of the house right now. Like I stayed literally in my house for like probably 2 or 3 weeks. So, I went back to school, I hit my head again, and everything just kind of like, that was like right around when I was finally starting to do a little better, and everything just got worse. So I'm finishing my finals. I'm restarting new classes that I can't even make it to because I can't focus and the lights they hurt my eyes and all that kind of stuff. I got put on this medication, to benzodiazepine. It's called Klonopin, and Klonopin is like the strongest anti-anxiety medication on the market. It's like 10 times stronger than Xanax. And the doctor who prescribed it to me was she was my concussion doctor, not my she wasn't my psychiatrist. She was my concussion doctor, but she had like a psychiatry license or whatever. So she prescribed me this thing, which it was good for my anxiety. It cured all that. I was feeling fine, but my short term memory was gone. There's a 2 week period from that time period that I don't remember at all. I have literally no recollection of it. People come up to me now and they're like, "Yo, remember when we did this and this?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't remember that at all. Like, not even a little bit." So this is all going on, and I end up getting off the prescription, and I end up deciding I had to go home because I couldn't focus on school. I was, I barely was leaving my room. I wasn't going to class. I couldn't finish the stuff from the semester before. I couldn't do this stuff from this semester. So I went home and I enrolled in what's called an IOP, which is a what is it? Intensive outpatient program. So it's basically I went to therapy it was 5 hours a day, group therapy, 5 days a week. And when I was in there, I kind of just realized I was like, I went through this whole thing for a reason. I believe, everything, there's a reason for everything. And I went through this
Sure.
to realize that what I really like to do in life is help out people who need it. So I decided that I was going to change my degree to psychology and try to be a counseling therapist.
That's awesome. So, you use those struggles and that adversity to find your new passion. You were juggling all these things at once. You did you have the concussion first and then the anxiety, or was that just all at the same time?
So, I think I've been asked that question a good amount, and I never really know what to say. I think that before I had the concussion, I was starting to have anxiety. I was dealing with a lot of like social anxiety. Like I was struggling to order at Starbucks and like stuff like that. You probably remember from like freshman year when we would go to what's it called? We would go to what's the ice cream place? Hoffman's. We would go to Hoffman's, and you
Hoffman, yeah,
guys
you
would
could
force
have,
me to order
and you
because you
couldn't,
thought
you
I
couldn't.
couldn't do it. But it was fine for a while, and then around my sophomore year it got really bad. Like I would break out in like a cold sweat when I had to like order something at a restaurant or something like that. So
You think that was the buildup of just classes, wrestling, and just all that stuff? You
I
know?
think so. While this is all going down, while I'm starting to deal with this social anxiety and all this kind of stuff, I had a labral tear in my shoulder. So that was my first major injury. The first time I ever really had to take a good amount of time off the mat that wasn't like voluntary. Like when I was a
Yeah.
kid, I would take like a summer, a couple months in the summer off or something like that.
Mhm.
But I like this is the first time that someone ever came in and told me like you can't wrestle right now, like that's not who you are. So I'm going through this whole like almost existential crisis of like who am I without wrestling kind of thing. I had a panic attack probably in October, and that probably kicked off like a good amount of this like anxiety disorder I was feeling that led into the concussion in December.
Yeah. So definitely the concussion didn't help you too much, recovering with that and just helping with your schoolwork. So it wasn't like a time where you could just fully recover. Um, so how what was your main focus at that time? Just getting healthy? Like, you deal with the concussion first? Do you deal with, you know, uh, your other stuff first? How do you even go about that? I couldn't even fathom that.
So I mean, I was like a lot of kids. You get a concussion, you don't think it's anything serious until serious stuff starts happening to you. So I was back on the mat probably 2 weeks after I got my concussion. That's probably where I got what's, considered in medical field post-concussive syndrome, which is where you hit your head again, you have a rebound of a concussion, and it prolongs the effects of your concussion itself. So my focus at that point really was I just want to get back on the mat because I felt most myself when I was on the mat. I was very much feeling like if I can't wrestle, who am I? What do I do? Who am I without the sport? So originally my focus was just getting my schoolwork in order. When I went back to school, I was like, I knew that the stuff was wrong. I was very open about this kind of stuff. I see a lot that people don't want to talk about, their mental health struggles and all that kind of stuff. That for me personally, that wasn't the case. I was very open about it. And I would talk to my parents about it, and I would say like, look, like I'm really not in a good place. So
Yeah,
I
you
was very
wrote a blog about it and everything, right?
yeah.
Something.
So
There was an article.
there was yes. So in probably April of that spring, my sophomore spring, I was going through the IOP. I was coming up on the end of my time there, and I was like, I'm not a famous wrestler or anything like that. I'm no big deal, but you know,
Only a state qualifier in one of the best wrestling states, New Jersey. But yeah.
like I was a good wrestler, I'm pretty good at the sport, but I'm not like Jordan Burroughs, like I don't have a huge following or anything like that, and I'm aware of that, but I have a good amount of people that follow me, and they like following how I'm doing and all that kind of stuff. So in this time, I'm zero dark Johnny. I'm not saying anything to anyone. I'm not going out of my circle. I'm kind of keeping everything very quiet, except for like the people in my inner circle. And I was driving home from my now ex-girlfriend's college, and I was like, I kind of have a voice, not a crazy outreach, but I have people that know me, and I have kids that look up to me. So, what if I opened up about this kind of thing? So, I remember driving home, and I had my IOP that day, and I was like, I'm gonna open up about this kind of stuff. I'm gonna say that this is something I'm dealing with. The anxiety that I'm dealing with now is why I'm in the IOP. But I've dealt with depression through high school and suicidality and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to be open about all of it. So I opened up about everything, and I put out an Instagram post. And this reporter from Arizona State, Mackenzie Pavicic, I think I said her name right. She reached out to me, and she was like, actually my media consultant, I think was his title. Basically our wrestling media guy, put me in touch with her, and she was like, I'm putting together this huge article about wrestlers in mental health circles. So that article was like me, Kyle Connell, Sarah Hildebrandt, a bunch of other people, and everyone was just talking about the different mental health struggles that they've dealt with through wrestling, whether it be some of them were suicidal. Some of them were, they were dealing with eating disorders where they were maybe anorexic or bulimic or like that. They were dealing with that as a result of cutting weight and stuff like that. So
Right,
it was a huge
especially a sport like wrestling where we pride ourselves on being mentally tough and everything. That was a big step for you, huh? Especially in the wrestling community, and just to ask for help, ask for other people's opinion. I felt like that didn't only help yourself, but it probably helped so many other wrestlers, that were going through similar situations.
Yeah. So I when I posted that, I think the last thing I said was something like, I'm not looking for like pity or people to like, take it easy on me or anything like that. Like, I'm doing this because I know I can help people. So I've actually had like a lot of people reach out to me. Even still, it's been over a year. It was actually end of March I posted it last year. So it's been a year now, and I still have people that reach out to me all the time, and they're like, "Hey, man, like, I just want you to know I really appreciate what you did and opening up about that kind of stuff." I've had people from Penn that have reached out to me and said like, "Hey, I'm dealing with the same stuff," and like, literally same situations where they're student athletes and they're highly
High
functioning
level.
student athlete, yeah,
Yeah.
and they had these same disorders and these same difficulties that they were dealing with, and a lot of people have reached out to me and said like it was a big deal to them. So that was really the only reason I did it, was because I knew that it would help some people.
Yeah, for sure. I remember it getting a lot of positive feedback, and sometimes that's all it takes is, extending that a hand, and you'd be surprised how many people will reach out for it. You really don't know how many people you reach until, you see the results and you see people, just coming together from it. And that, I was proud of you of that moment. That was awesome. So, getting back into everything, getting cleared and everything, when you finally got cleared and got back on the mat and everything, how did that feel?
So it was kind of surreal when I got that concussion. I don't know if I told you that, but I was telling everyone I was done wrestling. Like, that's my career. I had like 3 concussions at that point, so I
Yeah,
still
I
only
remember
have
you
3.
were
But
telling me you're telling me you were at peace with it, and I feel like that whole, the whole, blog post and reaching out to other people about your issues. I feel like that was kind of your peace with wrestling. Like, everyone wants to be a national champ, everyone wants to be an All-American, everyone wants to be a state champ. But they crown one every year. So the fact that you did something like that is, pretty remarkable. Should you should be proud of, and that's an accomplishment in of itself. You know, and like I tell people, if you look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Hey, I did everything that I possibly could to become a national champ," or whatever your goals is, then ultimately you could have peace with yourself. And like we had this conversation. You said, you were at peace with the idea, and whether you step on the mat, so be it. But here we are now. I mean, you still got what, another year eligibility, and who knows with this, right?
so I might have 3 years of eligibility left.
Yeah.
I'm trying. So this will be my senior year coming up this season. But because I missed last season and then I broke my ankle this year, so I missed this season, I'm looking to get a 6th year from the NCAA. But at that time, I was done wrestling, and I was like totally fine with it. I was like, I've done, I didn't accomplish what I wanted to. I didn't become an All-American. I didn't do all the things that I'd hoped that I would do in the sport, but I did a lot. I was a state finalist. I placed in the state a couple times, and I got to wrestle in a Division 1, capacity. I got to go to an Ivy League school. I did some cool stuff in the sport. I got to compete at Midlands. Like, that's fun. That was an awesome experience. And I was going around telling anyone who asked, like, yeah, I'm done. Like, my career is over. I'm finished. So I went to the doctor in probably April, and I was like, I think I want to get back on the mat. Like, even if it's just rolling around, I just want to kind of roll around, feel good. So I think I actually hit up my assistant coach, Brian Pearsall, and I was like, can you get a rolling? Like, I want to get back on the mat. I think he was the first person I rolled with. And I got back on the mat, and I was definitely rusty, but I felt good. So for a couple weeks, I was just, asking people, yo, do you want to get a rolling? Do you want to, step on the mat? I'm still at that point not thinking I'm ever going to compete again. I was just like, I like rolling around. I like giving back to people. I like giving feedback. My style of wrestling is kind of unorthodox. I like, spreading information about, just different techniques that I was using, all that kind of stuff. So I'm getting back on the mat back home with like high schoolers and Joey Langle, who's a coach now at UPenn High School, and he's a national top 5 for Rutgers. So I'm just rolling around with kids, and then I went to visit Penn one weekend, um, like, because it was coming up on the end of their school year. This is after I already left. So it was coming up on the end of their school year. and the guys were like, I don't know, it was like spring fling, which is like their big party weekend or something. So I was just hanging out at the house, and I was talking to Anthony Artelona, who's one of our aces, one of our top guys, and he was like, "Yo, like we're all going to this tournament in like a month. You should come along if you want to." I was like, I literally originally said, I was like, "Dude, I'm done wrestling. Like my career is over. Like no way." And he was like, "Nah, dude. Like it really doesn't matter. You just cut a couple pounds, you make weight, you go out, you do well or you do bad. Who cares? Like it's a 1-day tournament. It's in Akron,
Go out
Ohio.
there and wrestle.
Just go
That's
out
it.
there
Just
and
go out there and compete, right?
have fun." So I went out there. I competed. I went 0-2 because taking 5 months off and then training for 3 weeks with like predominantly high school kids is not a good way to get ready for a national tournament. But I went out there and I did it, and I went 0-2, so I was pretty upset that I did terrible, but I was kind of like I got back on the mat. This is awesome.
You're thankful for the opportunity to get on the
Yeah,
mat.
like I didn't a month ago I didn't think I would ever step on a mat again, and now I'm competing. So, whatever. And I was totally fine. Like I wasn't shedding a tear or anything that I had lost. I was like upset, but I wasn't like very upset or anything. I was like, dang, I lost, but whatever. And again, my assistant coach, Coach Pearsall and Coach Pammy came up to me and they were just like, "I'm so proud of you," and all this stuff. And like when someone tells you they're proud of you and you're like holding it together, and then like all of a sudden you're not holding it together anymore. I broke down. I was like, "Oh my God, thank you guys."
Wrestling is such an emotional sport. Whether you win or lose, there's going to be emotions. What I noticed, when I brought you in to roll around with my middle school team, just the passion that you had from coaching them and just showing your skill set. You had a different type of style than what I teach. And I always like to bring different coaches around and different wrestlers in, to show and teach these kids there's more than one way to wrestle, and I always have them keep an open mind. And I noticed, even though you weren't wrestling at that time and, you're coming off an injury, you still had passion and love for the sport. And I could see it while you're coaching the kids. Is there a difference in how, you coach the youth kids compared to the high school and, just different ways, or you just show people the same style?
So I mean, I've kind of come to realize that my style that I wrestle is not for everyone. Like you have to have a very specific skill set kind of to do some of the stuff that I do. And that's not me like trying to like be cocky or anything. It's just like not everyone wrestles the same. And for me personally, the stuff that I do isn't going to work for like, person X, Y, and Z. So when I show high school kids stuff, I'm showing, a little bit higher level stuff, a little bit of stuff that I learned wrestling with, like Coach Matt Valeni, who's a 2-time national champ, and, Brian Pearsall and Coach Chase Pammy, who was, they were all national level wrestlers in high school, wrestled, beyond, or in college, I should say, and they wrestled beyond that. And, it's all just stuff that like, I think is really cool and I think it's really interesting, and that's what I usually show high school kids. When I go to show the littler kids stuff, it's more just like more simple, almost like more basic.
Yeah,
like you need
basic. Yeah.
Yes, like Coach Valeni always says that he says it's hand fighting, but really it's anything in wrestling. You think of it like a tree. You have your trunk, which is your base, which if it's hand fighting, that could be your left club. And you start there, and then you build out from there. You can start left club, but then you work into righty collar tie, into this shot and that and this and that. So it's really anything with wrestling. So when I'm showing the high school guys stuff, I'm showing them that higher level, the branches of the tree. But when I'm showing middle school kids stuff, it's all the trunk, it's all the base that they need to like find out first.
Right. Or you could just be the strongest person ever and just beat people up, right?
You could just be a big meatball and just be strong as heck and bullying people on the mat. I've never seen it before.
That's what I was all about, man. It's all about the strength and cardio. That's it. Screw your technique. I'm gonna go after you. So like you said, different branches of the tree, and that's interesting because when I was a kid, like when I was in high school, middle school, whatever, even when I was getting to college, I had coaches. I had my main coaches, but I wasn't afraid to bounce around and just pick different coaches' brains. Nowadays, I mean, I'm all about the loyalty. Like I have a bunch of coaches and people I'm very loyal to. But learning, don't be afraid to learn from anyone. And I see a lot of kids nowadays, they're just so stuck in the mud and stuck in their ways, they don't want to learn from anyone else. They think that one way is the end all be all. But I tell them, hey, like, find out different techniques. Like, not every wrestler is the same. Like, very rarely is are you gonna have the perfect technique. You're gonna finish the way you practiced that shot. Very rarely, right? So I guess would you agree the advice that I give a lot of kids, like, don't be afraid to bounce around clubs or wrestle other people, wrestle as many people as you can, because you kind of need that exposure, right?
Oh yeah. So for me, I always try to get as many different feels as possible. You can ask a lot of people, any kid who's, a college wrestler that's ever had a house down the shore. I'm always reaching out on Instagram like, hey, let's get it rolling, because I want to feel like every different style. And that's just, that's what I think has helped me get to a higher level than I would, than some other people. I'm always trying to find, the best wrestlers and the most, unorthodox wrestlers, and pick their brains about, how they do this and that, and how they feel in this situation, that situation. And, it's with the understanding that not everything that they're going to show me is going to work. When I would wrestle with Coach Pearsall, he's 6 foot tall and he's 175 pounds or whatever he weighs right now. He was a 6 foot tall, 141 pounder. His style is not 100% going to translate to what I do. So I had to, go through all the coaches and find, okay, what are you showing me that I could do? What are you showing me that I think fits well for my style? And, being a sponge, taking it all in, taking in how they do this and that. I think of Coach Chase Pammy. His style was a little more conducive for me my freshman year, because he was very funky, but he also had kind of a short, stocky build. And even going through high school, like I think of like Vinny Santinello. He's huge on, he was my club coach. He was huge on showing
Sure Thing Wrestling Club.
Shout out Sure Thing Wrestling Club. He's huge on showing, the basics, but also, some cooler stuff. And I got a lot from him. But more accurately, I think of my first high school coach, my first 3 years, Coach Denver. And Coach Mike Denver is now the coach at Bridgewater Raritan. He's a highly accomplished wrestler and a phenomenal coach. He's a big guy coach. I think he was a 197 pounder in college. So his style is just a little bit different than my style and what I can hit, because, he's a tall, lanky dude. He's got, giraffe arms and legs, and he can hit, these crazy ankle picks and stuff. And when Coach Kiley came in, he's a little bit shorter guy, a little bit more stocky. And, his style was a little bit closer to what I could hit. And, they were both phenomenal wrestlers and they're both phenomenal coaches. It's just, not everyone that you're learning from is going to give you the best style. And you have to learn through years and years and years of exposure what's really going to work out for you.
Right. Yeah. And with the different styles, but nothing really beats the basics, right? If you keep a good stance, you keep your head position in the right spot. And I feel a lot of younger, like more newer wrestlers to the sport, they don't get the basics. Like some of these kids are going to the clubs and they're learning all these high level moves that, they don't understand, like, when is a good time to hit this. Like, you need to learn a basic stand up. You need to learn how to defend a shot before you're hitting all this, all these rolls and funk moves, and I feel like that's you really need to get those basics down before you hit those high level moves. I feel like that's a not a huge problem, but I see it a lot, especially with the middle school kids I coach, and that's why I'm heavy on the basics and just tough in positions and just being strong, right?
That's the Ray Jazz motto.
That's the mentality, man. Just be strong. That's it. Beat people up. But what was the big difference that you saw, from high school to college wrestling? I mean, when we saw you in high school, like me and Joey, when you made it to the state finals, man, we were so happy. That was a great moment. And we'll have the clip here. It's going to be shown, but it was a great moment for us because, we had unfinished business in Atlantic City at the state tournament. And to see you do that, it was a proud moment for us. Even though you didn't accomplish, winning the state tournament, but it was still a proud moment for you. And how was that experience?
So I mean, the state tournaments, I tell everyone I think the New Jersey State tournament is the best tournament in the country, not necessarily in terms of, we don't have all the best wrestlers, but we have some of the best in the country. We have one of the higher level states, and it's one class, and it's in Atlantic City. So I think it's an awesome venue. I had some really heartbreaking seasons in Atlantic City for sure.
A lot
You know,
of people have, yeah.
yeah, I think more people are end up heartbroken on the boardwalk than happy on the boardwalk.
Not
So
only just wrestlers.
yeah, exactly. But my I think back to my senior year because obviously making state finals is cool and all, but my senior year I was really feeling really good going into the state tournament, and I ended up not wrestling well in the semis, and I guess you could call it an upset. I got upset by the 4 seed. I was the 1 seed, and I really had to bounce back, and that was something that I didn't know how to do because my junior year, I didn't know how to do it, I should say. My senior year, I learned a little bit more how to do it. My junior year, I lost in the quarters. And I by all means, I didn't want to wrestle back. I kind of just ended up, winning a couple matches. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll go get third or something. And I was wrestling a bunch of tough kids like back to back to back. Like I think I wrestled like 4 or 5 nationally ranked kids to try and get third or something like that. And I lost in third, fourth, and I was like, whatever, man, I don't care. Like screw this. I'm going home. But I had a lot of cool memories in Atlantic City too. And transitioning to college, I always, like in every college match, to that grind I had to take to get fourth my junior year, because every match I'm wrestling is a really, really tough kid. And when I was in high school, you wrestle some kids that they just stepped on a mat for the first time last week, and this is something I'm doing for my entire life. So you had a lot of easy matches. You had a lot of matches where you went into, and the hardest thing about it might be the weight cut. And going into college, the weight cut's obviously really hard, but every
You
single
gotta
match.
battle that third. It's like a wrestle back match. You're gonna
Yes.
wrestle every kid that's
Match.
tough. There's no days off in college wrestling. But looking back at that whole high school experience, what kind of advice would you give kids or high
Um,
school wrestlers?
High school wrestlers, I always tell them just appreciate where you're at. I think it sounds very old and washed up of me to say, but you're only a high school wrestler for so long. Your body only works the way it does for so long. I'm 21. I'm not old by any standard, but my body hurts now when I wake up and I have to like stretch and do stuff. And my body doesn't just naturally bounce back like it used to. And I was very fortunate to have a good career in high school, to end up so on the podium 3 times and do all the stuff that I ended up doing. But I always just tell kids, just appreciate it. High school wrestling's fun. You're with people that you grew up, wrestling with, that you've known for your whole life. And, my college team, they're my brothers, but, I still only known guys for 3 years. And like, I'm really close with a lot of guys, but I'm not, it's not the same as a high school, bond that you have, especially going through a public school system where you grew up with these kids. Some of my best friends I've known since I was 4 or 5 years old, and we grew up wrestling together, and we went through high school together, and it's just a lot more fun. It's a lot less pressure. A lot more people come to watch, unless you're going to like a Penn State or an Iowa or something like that. A lot more people are coming to watch your matches in high school. Like, you used to have all your friends show up to the match, and it was always just a good time. So I always just tell
Right.
kids, appreciate where you're at and appreciate the people that are helping you be there.
Right. How about for kids that are looking to get recruited?
So I mean, I had a pretty interesting recruiting situation. Like I said, I was committed to Princeton. I ended up not getting in, and I went to Penn. But for kids who are trying to get recruited, I always just tell them to work hard. You never know how things are going to end up. You never know what coaches are going to end up reaching out to you. Just have, I wanted to go to an Ivy League school, and I knew that, and I wanted to go to one of the better Ivy League schools for wrestling and one of the better Ivy League schools for academics. So have that basis in mind, but just work hard. If you work hard in the classroom, if you're busting your butt in the wrestling room, then you're going to end up somewhere that is beneficial to you. If you're slacking, not doing the right things, and then you're probably not. Then you're going to end up somewhere that you might not be as happy. So I always just tell
Right.
people work hard and let everything figure itself out.
Yeah, even with with recruiting, me now, out of college and everything, me talking to college coaches now and having experience with college coaches, don't be afraid to reach out to a college or a coach that you want to go to. They get 100 emails a day. Don't be afraid to be on them. Coaches want, like, especially college coaches, they want someone that's going to be committed to their program, right? So if you're showing that you want to be part of a program, why not? The best advice that I got was actually from Gene, and it can be applied to any life lesson. The answer to every question you don't ask is a no. So why not?
That's
Take that
very
risk.
true. Very,
Yeah. So
very
you would
true.
never know. You would never know if you reach out to the college coach. Maybe he responds, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't get to you in a week. Send him another one. They want to see that commitment, and that's super important for college. So, with that being said, throughout your whole experience, up to where you're at now, what kind of advice can you give to college kids or someone going into college this year and through all your adversity? I'll call this the adversity moment, right? So, what is something that you've been through, your adversity moment, that is part of you now, part of your story?
Um, I guess that's a tough question. I mean, if I was giving a college kid advice, I'm still a college kid, so there's only so much I can say. But I would say, again, just appreciate where you're at. One, two, college is hard, man. It's the best of times and it's the worst of times. You're gonna meet people that you're gonna be friends with for the rest of your life, and you know, school's gonna be really hard. And I see a lot of people dealing with mental health disorders, and that's really hard too, because when you're in high school and you're dealing with that kind of stuff, it's readily apparent to people who are around you. If you're in a serious depressive funk, if you're having really bad anxiety, you're with your family. You're with people who know you and they know that something's going on. When you're in college, these people don't know you as well. So a lot of people I see, a lot of sad stories about like kids who've, maybe committed suicide or they attempted it or something like that. And it's because they were scared to reach out and no one knew that something was wrong. And I always just feel like the best thing you can do is reach out. When you're dealing with something as serious and as crippling as anxiety, depression, going up to like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia and all spectrums of mental health disorders, the most beneficial thing you can do for yourself is reach out, because at the end of the day, it has to start with you. Um, I think there's actually a Kanye and Kid Cudi song on their Kids See Ghosts album where they both talk about the mental health disorders that they've had. Kid Cudi with depression, Kanye with bipolar, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a line in there that really resonated with me when I was going through this whole thing, was that peace is something that starts with me. If I wanted to get better, I couldn't just sit around and wait for something good to happen. I had to go out and do something. I had to go tell people that I wasn't right. I had to go join the IOP. I had to do stuff that would help me be better, help me get better. And I just, especially when you first start experiencing mental health disorders, it's something that might be, comfortable. Like depression is, for people that deal with it, super comfortable. And you're like, I don't care to get better. But, you become lazy and sluggish and, you know,
You there?
yeah, Joseph FaceTime me. But you become lazy and sluggish, and it's not something you want to do anymore. But I always just tell people, if you're dealing with something, don't be afraid to talk about it, because you're just gonna become a stronger person. And we're in such a day and age where people don't look down on people with mental health disorders like they used to. You know, if you had serious anxiety or paranoia or depression back 50 years ago, people would just call you crazy. But now people understand that that's something that most people have dealt with and will deal with in their lifetime. So be willing to reach out to people. Don't be afraid to tell people that something's not right, because at the end of the day, especially dealing with suicidality, which is something that I think I'm hoping to wean my career towards, is helping people with suicidality. um, at the end of the day, your parents would rather help you through being sad than have to pick out a casket for you. So don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to do better. And that even applies to, don't be afraid to reach out to your friends who you don't think are doing well.
Right.
Just don't be afraid to reach out to people.
That's the reason why they're your friends. They want to help you out. So I always end it with this. You kind of already answered it, but you could reiterate if you want. Who is Gian Ghione, And what do you want to be known for?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Um, I guess for me, I really want to be remembered as someone that just wants to help people and make people's lives better. Um, I think from early on, I kind of just wanted to help people out and help people get better. And I didn't really know what I was doing back then, but if someone was dealing with something, I always wanted to be the one who was there for them. So I hope that more than being a wrestler, more than being an Ivy League student, I hope I'm remembered as a good person. And I hope I'm remembered as someone who makes not everyone, because you're not going to make everyone's lives better, but who makes other people's lives better and who is, beneficial to society and helps improve, the quality of life of people around him.
All right, that's awesome. And you still gotta graduate college, so you still got that. But I'm very proud of the person you are and you're becoming, and you've been through a lot of adversity and everything in your life, and it's great to see your mindset today and everything, and you willing to help out people. That's the main reason why I started this podcast and this talk. If I could help as many people with these talks, then I can. And that's great. That's awesome. It's a big reason why I'm doing this. And yeah, any last plugs? Any last words that you want to if you want to reach out to Johnny, I'm sure he would answer any of your questions.
Yeah.
Where could they hit you up on?
So, I mean, you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm sure my Instagram will be, in this video or whatever. But hit me up on Instagram at Johnny Ghione and on Twitter at Johnny Ghione. Any plugs, I would say, this quarantine we're dealing with is a very tough time, especially for people who deal with mental health disorders. Having stuff like anxiety, depression, maybe bipolar disorder, and being stuck inside in, whether it's, a benign family or a more malevolent negative family setting, it can be very difficult for people. So being able to reach out to people, the psychiatrists and psychologists that I know have all been holding remote FaceTime or Skype or Zoom or whatever hours, and if you're really dealing with something serious, don't be afraid to reach out to them. They're all good people and they want to see people do better. And yeah, that's kind of all I got. Just don't be afraid to reach out to people.
Don't be afraid to reach out. So we served up a lot of information today, and hopefully we could help as many people as we can. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
And
thank you for having me, man.
No problem. No problem. So hope you guys enjoyed. Take it easy.